Right. It says we're recording. So yeah, so today is going to be the day that we are taking a look at the entries that were submitted for our Christmas CSS challenge. And Katrina and myself, we're going to give our input, give our evaluation of them. And I'll let Katrina explain how the process worked and what was their main intent with doing this.
So with the holidays, we wanted to make sure that there was something that was easy to put together, a little bit fun, uh, themed for Christmas without being like building an entire app from scratch and overwhelm and just taking up the time. Because we want to make sure people have time for families over the holidays. So what we came up with was taking a template project, something that was already started, and then just modifying the theming of it and working with the CSS, perhaps a little bit of JavaScript if you felt up to it, but not required, just to change from a grayscale dashboard and to add a little bit of Christmas sparkle and jolly spirit into it. So we a code. Let me go ahead and share my screen briefly. Here we go. So we started off with this grayscale Santa's workshop where it lost its jolly. And then the goal of the challenge was to take this and make it their own, add some Christmas spirit, add some jollification to it. And we had 2 entries. This one, and just do a quick scroll through, and this one. And so in a moment, I'll turn the time back over to Rob for us to go through and inspect them in more detail.
And it's really cool to see how we go from that base level project and then we get to see something that has their own creativity, their own style. And out of the entries, right, those are the 2 entries, you can see a divergent of, hey, this person went this artistic way, this other person went this other artistic way. And a lot of it I mean, mostly everything visual there is dealing with something going on with the CSS. And I don't think, and I'd have to ask, but I mean, I think some of the snowflakes and stuff were added HTML, but for the most part, that was just for styling. So none of the data was changed. And it's real interesting to see that CSS can be able to manipulate that, right? So it can take something very plain and make something very unique with simple CSS.
It really showcases how creative code can be and how you can start from the same base and go a variety of ways to help with taking a template and branding it to be your own. To start, it doesn't code, though logical, is not restricted. It's expansive. There's so many different options that you can go with it and just and make things your own, even when you're utilizing code as maybe from another source to get you stepped up into it. And so it's really creativity of code is really what this boils down to, as being able to see it and see the just how fun it can be.
Yeah. And another interesting thing that we did with this challenge as well is you're able to utilize AI in it, meaning that you can have it analyze the code and maybe even help you out and assist you with creating something. And again, I don't know if AI was used by any of the participants, but it was a neat twist that you can do because it also shows you that you can take existing code that's already out there and tweak it and make it your own. And just like any other job, when you are going into that job, you're not going to start from scratch. You're going to have an existing code base to work with.
But Melissa, you're
Yeah.
here with us. You're one of the contestants. What did you think of the contest and with participating in it? How did you feel about the contest in and of itself?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I enjoy doing challenges where I get to just be creative with it, where like you did, where you say, okay, here's this very base thing. Now take it and make it your own. And I tried to be a little bit different, going with more of a Victorian Christmas type theme with my colors and stuff. But it was a lot of fun, just doing different things with the code and trying to make a variety of animations. And it took me, I honestly, when I looked at it, I thought it might only take a couple of hours. And I probably could have made it take only a couple of hours, but I ended up spending quite a bit of time on it just because I was having fun with it.
Well, that's cool. What was one of your favorite things about your project that you did?
I really like doing hover effects and animations that pop up with a hover effect. I do that a lot on like websites that I build that are my own projects. So I did that in this one too. And then if you push this button, it jumps you to a different part of the page. I like doing those types of things with it. This gave me opportunity to do that a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things that if, I remember when Katrina and I were taking a look at this. She's like, just don't post the screenshots and let them go experience the website and take a look at it because, and you mentioned the subtlety of hover effects and even with the small little transition of hovering, for example, right here over the total revenue, it gives that nice little subtle effect. And then you even put some other jolly things because that was part of the challenge to make the page jolly. And that would be when we're hovering over these pieces right here, the transition effect and animation of each one of these. For example, scrolling trees and sewing needles. Really cool. And the color theming, since you're here, how did you come up with the color styling?
I looked up different colors that go with a Victorian Christmas theme, and then I Googled for the CSS code for that color and just inserted them
Gotcha. Looks like you changed the font as well. Right. Yeah.
in some places, but also
Yep.
just to go with a more Victorian theme.
Yeah. A little candy cane out. So it's a really project there, Melissa. What are some things that for you, Katrina, that kind of jumped out for you on this submission?
There is a spot. It's in there's a hover effect that made me laugh. Let's see, where was it?
It's the budgeting one, I think.
Let's go down to the budget.
There we go. Scroll down a
Okay.
bit. I like that one. It told a story to me about what was seen in the data.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, really great project all around and has a lot of great effects. And I think one of the things that when Katrina originally brought this to my attention and stuff was I was like, I feel like there's, and I don't know if I can demonstrate it on here or not, but there was some sort of sizing bug that doesn't seem to be present in yours.
Yeah, she
So you can
fixed that.
see. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you saw that. So like if you resize, it doesn't. The bar graph overflows the width of the page and
So
causes
we're
like
noticing
mouth
was
issues.
where with the map area where we've got that big gray oval.
Yeah,
The delivery regions, if you're looking at it in a smaller scale, like it'll shrink it off to be like totally unreadable in the gray one. I guess
Mhm.
except if it's being stacked in a column. But when it's a mid size, it becomes totally unreadable.
Yeah,
But in her, she managed to compartmentalize it a little bit better so that it always is
yeah.
readable for the on the cards. And so I thought that was very good.
Yeah, yeah. So very eye pleasing, and like I said, that small little bug. I joked around with Katrina about it, and it's a feature that they're going to have to fix if they want to fix it, right? And so yeah, it looks like you fixed it, which is cool. And then we have the other submission here was Jason. He's not here. I got the one that we issued on the left, and his is on the right. He definitely, in my mind, he made it jolly by adding those Christmas colors, adding the Christmas lights. So that I guess that's a little GIF that keeps lighting up those light bulbs around. And pretty good thing.
That's just the coolest thing. I love the way he did that.
It's so retro just to me too, seeing something like that. And then you can see that he also added snowflakes in here. And you can see that that they're trickling down and falling in some sort of loop fashion. And then everything else on here pretty much standard with the styling. I think you might be able to see the bug issue maybe better with this one. I don't know, but it's going outside. It's not being contained. And he does have that one thing that kind of stood out to me, which is at the very top, is the naughty or nice. What do you think of that, Katrina?
It was definitely a clever addition. I thought it was fun to have two different themes. Totally hard to read the naughty one though. One thing that I did notice that I thought was really clever is when you scroll down on the naughty one, there you've got those points that were those tags where it talks about high, medium, low, and then there's a critical one that flashes. Some of those were added a flash effect if they were really important, which wasn't important in this one when everything is so red. To be able to actually draw your attention to something, it needed to flash. even despite the flashing of the background.
Yeah.
So definitely warnings needed for visiting this site on the naughty side.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So that is Jason's. Is there anything else that you would like to bring up about this, Katrina?
One thing between the two of them that I noticed a bit was readability and being able to read the content after the CSS was applied. And so that was something that I personally graded on was if I were to then use this as a dashboard, could I read the data afterwards and be able to use this? So I don't have much to say on that at the moment here in this meeting, but it's just something that I was considering.
Cool. Makes sense. Yeah. So you went ahead and picked out some important things on your end that you would evaluate this on and kind of like award points to. Do you want to explain that on your process?
Yeah, so we determined that our grading isn't going to be just all my opinion 100% or it's all Rob's opinion 100%. We wanted to spread it out so that we could have more input from various sides. And so we have my percentage of the value for the points for the contest, Rob's percentage, and we both have equal say that way. And then we also are giving a percentage of the weight of the contest to the poll that we put out to our community this week to be able to get them to chime in and to give their votes as to which one do they prefer, which one speaks to them. So it's not just again, not just my opinion and not just Rob's opinion, but that there's a community factor as well for giving that input and saying, yeah, this is what speaks to me. And then there's also a guest judge who has chimed in, somebody who was given them anonymously, not knowing whose was whose, and graded them on a 25-point scale of their own choosing to pick out what's important to them with when it comes to the results. So for me personally, one of the things that I was looking for was I have worked in I've worked with some team building with projects before, and I know that this one's not a team project, but one of the things that ends up happening is scope creep a little bit when you're assigned a task and additional things are being added into it beyond the ask. And so one of the things that I baked into my own personal is how well would this person work in a team environment in this particular zone. And so maintaining some of the bugs and not fixing all of the errors because there were errors that were intentionally baked in the data and it doesn't logically make sense in many of the ways. But also some of the errors would be valid to be addressed in working with just the CSS of a panel and being able to fix the flexing. Like with that, I went and I compared them side by side. I was like, okay, is the original functionality still there that was there before? And that was one of my grading points for it. Another one was readability. Another one is usability, like for how functional it is overall. Another one is theme, of course, because the point of it was to theme it. Does it feel themed? Or was it just rainbow colors splashed on there without purpose? So having a theme, and my last one was sensible. Do the changes make sense overall for what was done? Sorry, so those were my 5 points that I went across with my scale. They both scored very highly. They're excellent pieces, but it did give me a little bit of being able to say, okay, this one had something that I could follow more than the other one, and vice versa, as this one fixed some of the bugs that were part of the CSS and this one didn't. So I was able to make a distinction because of having various things to look at.
Gotcha. Yeah. I for myself, I went with a little bit of 4 categories of style. Did they get the jolly? Did they get, does it look eye pleasing? So that would go with style. And then another category I put is, did they have any cool effects that weren't there originally? And I evaluated them on that. I'm a big believer in taking a look at things on mobile first and then expanding outwards. And so I did hope that the bug was fixed with the sizing. So I judged on that. And then the last one is, did they do anything extra? Did they add anything above and beyond? And so it was, you either have it or you don't for that last part. Anyways, that's the categories that I went with when we're looking at this. Yeah, I guess I can go here for my tabulation here. So when it comes to styling and did they get the jolly? And like I said, the things that I look at least when it comes to the styling effect is I'm looking at things in the eye casing. And I look at what we were given, which are very square, harsh buttons. I do the, what Melissa did with the rounding of the buttons. They look evenly distributed and things are very nicely placed and rounded. So a little more modern look compared to this. When I look at Jason did a great job, right? But we're still dealing with the whole, from my looking at this, is that it looks scrunched still for the dashboard. But again, the jolly's there. And so in my mind, I'd say if I'm awarding for this category a total of 5 points out of how many they could get, I would say that in my mind, Melissa would get the 5 and Jason would get the 4 when it comes to the styling on this part. As far as cool effects, Jason has the snowflakes coming down. He has the naughty or nice, and it has a 1980s style lights going on and off. Melissa, she has the transition of things going on in the background of the snowflakes and these little orbs coming in and out. And then the hover effects are nice as well. On that one, to me, I match that as a tie. So again, if we're doing 5 points, 5 points and 5 points. The next category is, did they fix the bug, right? And on that project did not. Melissa did, awarding the points there to Melissa. And then as far as adding extras, Jason added that naughty or nice feature, which I really loved. And I really like the subtlety of the extras of the animated backgrounds that they both had. So to me, that was also a tie as far as points go. So that's my 4 categories and how I was voting. So I'll pass it back to you, Katrina.
I'm going to go ahead and start with Jason's here. I loved the lights up top. I thought that was fantastic and a great addition to it. I did notice that the trees in the background were stacked the wrong way. And I noticed it because I had tried to have AI make me a Christmas tree before. And it did the exact same thing where it stacked the thinner one at the bottom and the wider one at the top. And so that bugged me. Seeing that there. I just want to fix it. This here is the flexing part that we were talking about, where it doesn't quite make sense and everything moves whenever it's there. However, despite those little things, that's all I could really find that was off on his from what I was looking for. His had all the information all the way across. It maintained all the functionality. I could read the material. It had a Christmassy theme, and it looked clean and enjoyable to play around with, even on the naughty side. Going a bit above and beyond there. Now, this is something that I did notice as well, is for kind of the flexing, that was a bit of a point loss for him from my end, of how this doesn't look quite streamlined when the buttons are wrapping. But I did like how we talked about earlier, this glowing effect that was added to this button. Overall, excellent. I gave him 22 out of 25. The alerts didn't function the way that they didn't function before. It has all the same panels that pop up from the original standpoint. So that was my take from it, was to maintain the functionality while adjusting the styling. And then we go to Melissa's, a bit more rounded. I didn't realize that it was a Victorian theme. And so to me, the theme felt a little unusual because I wasn't familiar with the color scheme. And so it felt like two clashing themes of kind of the blues and the purples and the greens from like a Winter Wonderland, and the reds and the yellows, and I was missing green through it all. And so I was like, I'm not sure where the theme is. There definitely was a theme that was being applied, but it just didn't speak to me quite as much as Christmas, which is also why I didn't want to have the entire opinion of the be all and all for the judging. But that was something that stuck out to me. I did love how it was all that it had the rounded edges. One thing that came up as I was going through is I was trying to read some of these points here and I couldn't quite see them. The theming didn't quite help me to read some of the material. They got lost in the light gray. And there was another main spot that made it really hard to read the materials. It was when I was searching in Santa's sack for games. I was like, I can't barely read the board games. I'd have to highlight it to be able to see what was there. And so that to me lost a couple points for readability with cool animations, but made it less usable as far as a dashboard goes. And I was a little confused. There seemed to be a little squares in each of the animations that I wasn't sure were fully intended. It seemed like they should have been maybe spread out across the entire card, or maybe had a bit more reason for being in the corner. So I wasn't quite I got a little confused by that particular stylistic choice. But overall, love the totality of it. It kept the content really strong. It was fun to play with and look through, and definitely a strong entry. The alerts I noticed had a number change, which to me spoke to more of an additional change in detail. That was one of the bugs that I intended to be a back end bug for another ticket style thing than as far as the styling goes for it. But I also understand that that is fun to fix some of those things. Overall, got a good 17 out of 25 total for it all. I could see this being a little bit more coherent with it and a little bit more readable, but then it would be spot on for fun. And that was where I was at.
Nice. So you said 21, or what was it for Jason?
22 versus 17 is what my
22
points
versus
were.
17.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Cool. And I feel like we're split down here as well on the challenge. I think it might be the same with the voting too.
It's
Interesting twist. So all
Yeah.
to the third judge that
Mhm.
it's going to come down to. Cool. But yeah, I'm super happy with the entries. I'm glad that the entries of both people were inspired enough to do something to enter it, and hopefully they got something out of it as well with the creativity points, because that's really the end goal is, did you get something out of it?
Did you
So,
have fun? And now you've got something that you can share, that you can utilize in saying, hey, look what I did. I took this and I made this. Look at how cool all these changes are, for sure.
yeah. Cool. So we're going to wait for the third and final judge tallies to come in, and we'll make that announcement.
It should be fairly soon after this meeting wraps up. We'll be able to get that out there in a post and make the final announcement as to who the full on winner is.
Cool. Good deal. Yeah. Thanks for coming here, Melissa, and showcasing your work. Definitely appreciate that.
Any last words? Oh, sorry, you're already unmuted.
I just wanted to say thank you guys for doing this challenge. It was a lot of fun. And the competition was steep. I was very impressed and really liked what Jason did with his too. I look forward to the next challenge for sure.